Hello, tribals. Welcome to the podcast where we magnify the process and impact of the youth in the world using their own stories. I am the homegirl, also known as Liz Awino, and thank you for joining me, or rather us, for another episode. If you're new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you found us, however it is you found us. And if you're a returning subscriber or returning member, what's up? How are you doing? It's been a long time. I feel like this is becoming a telltale story when it comes to me and consistency and how exactly I want to run this podcast. And I really don't want to even attempt to save myself this time simply because I don't think that is going to be a winning battle. I think there is evidence that at this point I'm not as consistent, and I don't think there's need to actually address why or why not I'm consistent or not. So I'm just gonna get into it like we just spoke last week, and then we'll keep it pushing. I'm not going to make any promises. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to deliver a podcast. I'd like to talk about like the end of year fatigue. Everyone keeps on complaining about it because I asked you guys, how are you? So I'm gonna ask myself, how am I? And I'm gonna answer it. Everyone is going through the end of year fatigue, but I feel like I took a month off of October, so I was basically not doing anything. Like when everyone kept on asking me, what are you doing? I was like, nothing. Like I was genuinely doing nothing. And I think it bothered so many people that I was actually not doing anything. And every time someone would ask me, I met someone at Safaricom shop in town. And they were like, so what do you do? You know, most of the time when people ask you, what do you do? It's kind of like a trap. They are asking to find out what exactly, where exactly you rank. And, it's like a status thing. So it's not like, what do you do? Like just to know, but it's like, what do you actually do? And I looked at him and I was like, I do nothing. Like, I genuinely do nothing. And he was like, huh? And I laughed and I'm like, I actually don't do anything. And he was like, you're kidding, right? I'm like, no, I wake up in the morning and I do nothing. And it was very surprising, not just to him, but to a number of people. And it was very intentional as well. And I think by now, if you've listened to a couple of my episodes and you've heard me speak anyway, to be fair, you actually clock that a lot of the things I do are very intentional and they're very planned. I'm a planner to the T. Like, there's nothing that happens in my life without a plan. Well, I mean, God is the ultimate planner, but Liz will also plan. That's exactly what we do. So we have a way that the podcast flows. I think if you listen to the last episode, you kind of, know how it flows. So the first section is just introduction and basically me talking about how I am and basically what I've been up to. I've been up to a lot of things, honestly. I've gone to basketball games. I have gone to rugby games, and I think in this episode I will kind of touch on like the different things that I've done in terms of work and my career. So stay tuned. Don't actually, let me say this now. Don't listen to the podcast halfway. Guys, that's not the way to go. You don't start things and you leave them halfway. Like, why would you do that to me? Like, of all people, me? Don't do that. But yeah, guys, it makes such a huge contribution if people actually listen to the end because I see the analytics, guys. You guys start and you leave me halfway. That's not good. It's actually not. It's not a good thing. It's not a good look for me. And it is not a good look for you either. I'm gonna try and make this episodes very like short and sweet and concise. Short and very sweet so that you guys don't come back and say that they are long. But shall you also listen to 2 hour podcasts? Just put it on when you're washing the dishes, when you're in the shower. I have a very sweet voice and you will get through the day. That's the only thing. I mean, I have 4 more things to ask of you, but that's the number one for today, for this part. So the second section is the book tribe. We started the book tribe the last episode that we did on clarity crisis. If you haven't listened to it, you should go and listen to it. And this week's read is the famous article by Vogue, is having a boyfriend embarrassing now? Question mark. And I have my own opinions, honestly, and the internet has its own opinions, and everybody who has a phone and a mic and a mind of their own has their own opinion. My chat, I think, when it comes to this conversation, is that there's a lot of people that haven't read what the article is about. I think we are losing, I don't want to get into it like deeply, but I feel like we're losing the essence of nuance, the essence of just being curious about things, curious about how people's minds work, to the point where on TikTok especially, you found that people are starting to post how their boyfriends are so lovely and all of that stuff. And it's like, great, ma'am, great. But nobody asks you that. The question is having a boyfriend embarrassing? No, question mark. It's not that yours is good or bad. It's just, is it embarrassing? You know? Yeah, so I have my own opinion. I'm not gonna give you guys my opinion now. The essence of you going to read the book is for you to the book or whatever it is, an article, is for you to develop your own opinion. But one thing I'm gonna do is I'll probably force my friends to come to this podcast, and we will basically talk about that next segment while she gives you guys the book that she wants to, the book that she's actually reading or that she would like for you guys to check out. Yeah, so check out that article. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought about it if you have read it. If you have not read it until now, also, why have you not read it? Is it because everyone has talked about it so much that you've not read it? I don't know. But yeah, just let me know in the comment section what you guys thought about it. I'm gonna leave the article on the description of this podcast, so you will find it there. By now, you already know that the title is dot 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 a year later. And this is basically a podcast episode where I just decided to get into the different things that have happened over the last year, ever since I started working, because I think around this time I was already working, and I naively thought I was gonna be able to manage being a podcaster and going to work, and I think I quickly realized that that was just a dream. This episode is basically going to talk about the different things that I've experienced, and I think the question that I would pose to you guys as the listeners is, when you look back at the last 12 months, what is a single word that best describes your experience? So let me know. Before I answer that, mine is gonna come all the way in the end because you guys don't listen. I will give you the challenge to listen, and then if you guys get to the end, you can comment and tell me what the actual word, my word was. So this topic, this particular segment, because I kind of divided them, and this segment is we're going to be exploring questions around survival, the different shifts that I've had in my personal journey, and resilience, because I think that's a word I use a lot. If you look at yourself on the 19th of November 2024, what is the single biggest change in your perspective, value, or goals? One of the biggest things I've experienced this year is serious character development. And I think I'm not even saying it on like a kiki type of vibe. It's the one where you feel like, how do I say, you're running out of air consistently, and you're literally just fighting the water. Like you feel like you're drowning, but you're also fighting the water. And instead of being still so you can actually rise up, it's just you're consistently fighting the water. So obviously it's not helping. And the biggest change I've seen in myself is I've also learned how to let go. Like before, things would bug me a lot. I was talking to my friend a couple of days ago, and we were basically she was like, I hope next year is a really good year. And I was like, if it wants to be good, it can be good. If it wants to be bad, it can be bad. Even now, when I'm telling people have a lovely month, happy new month, I'm usually just like, have the month that you want. If you want it to be good, Shy, it will be good. If you want it to be bad, it will also be bad. So now it's really just for you to get to decide what exactly you want. I think the biggest change is my state of mind. I think that's the word, my state of mind. I've learned how to let go. Not everything, because I can't say I'm perfect, but I've learned how to, like, have a word. I don't even want to say a strong heart. No, because it's not strong anymore. At this point, I'm at the point where it's just, oh, this is what is happening. And I ask myself, can I change it? Can I? Yes. Can I not? No. Then we leave it, Sha. Because I don't think I'm not here to suffer. I am not here to be anyone's strong soldier. When people say, oh, she's a strong woman, don't ever think I am a strong woman. I'm not. Matter of fact, I'm weak to the ground, to my knees. Don't come and test me to see if I'm weak or strong. I already told you now, I am very weak. So don't come here knowing that I'm very weak. But yeah, aside from that, the next section was actually letting go. What is a fear or habit or relationship you've decided to leave behind in the past year, and what freedom has it created for you? I think on one of the episodes that I did, I talked about the fact that I was I am a recovering people pleaser. And I think to a very large extent, this year has seriously tested my people pleasing tendencies, where I had to pick me or pick other people. And it's not even on time. Oh, should I pick you or should I not pick you? No, it was heavy on sink or swim, right? Um, if I pick another person, I'm the one that's falling. Like it's a do or die situation. It's like when you're at the cliff, at the top of the cliff, and now you're trying to figure out who you should pick, either yourself or the other person. And it was literally like you need to pick that thing of, oh, I feel bad. Oh, da 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 da. Oh, what if they think? 2025 has shown me if you don't pick yourself, other people will pick themselves for you. And it's literally just like, I literally got to the point where I was just like, I will pick myself over and over again because I get to sleep with myself. I get to sleep with my mind. I get to decide what state of mind and what kind of life and what narrative I want for myself. Because if you don't decide who exactly you want to become, people will make that decision for you. And unfortunately, when people make decisions for you, they will never get tired of not of making the decisions for you. So it's literally like I saw it the other day. It's like there's really no point of people pleasing you because people are never pleased. And for real, if you people decide to start taking stuff from you, they gonna take and take and take and take and until the day you get to the point and you realize that actually there's no point of pleasing anyone. Because at the end of the day, nobody gives a damn. No one goes to bed at night thinking, oh wow, Liz is having such a difficult time. No, everyone goes to bed thinking, what am I going to do tomorrow morning? Or, I had such a lovely day. Or, what am I gonna wear tomorrow? Like, I think the biggest like wake up call for me when it came to adulting was just the fact that when you're growing up, a lot more people think about you, and it's such a nice feeling. There are certain days that my father does not cross my mind, not because I don't love him, but because things are many. Mambo ni mengi, guys. Hey. But you know what? I think it's part of the stepping stones when it comes to life. You just have to accept certain things, let go of other things, and all of that stuff. And that leads me to now the next point, which is like the simple joys that I've experienced in this year. I think kind of sealed my year. There's a lady called Cynthia Mumbo. She's in the sports scene. She's so tough. And she is just a lovely woman. Like when I first saw her, I was so like, I don't think people understand. I was so mesmerized. It's like how people see Justin Bieber and want to faint. Like, I obviously didn't have that level of obsession, but I was just like, wow, like, wow. And she was just like, oh, you remind me so much of myself. And I was like, because I don't know, guys, I'm such a stan for women, especially women that just get the damn things done. And women that know how to stand up and just be women in the they get stuff done not in a barbaric way but in a way that shows grace and in a way that shows nurture. She has an impact on me. I don't know if she knows this. I don't know if she's ever gonna find it, but she is just a woman that when I look at her, I wish I could just shadow her for like a year and just know how she goes about her day, what she thinks about, what she prioritized, like all of those things. Because I feel like I'm not a soft, I don't come off as soft, right? Most of my friends come off as very soft, very composed. I come off as very aggressive, and I know that. I think I've heard it a couple of times. Like, even when I walk into a room, I've been told that like there's a sense of command that I have, and it's not like I'm doing it intentionally for that to happen. It just so occurs that that's just who I am, and she is like that. I usually feel very honored when I get to like be in the same room with some of these women because I feel like it shows me that a lot of these things are possible and that you don't have to like clip off your wings for you to make it in life, or you don't have to fit into a set of what a woman is or what people think a woman should be. And because as much as people say that we've evolved as a society, there's still very like set in stone things that people always like to happen, especially when it comes to women. And if you don't fit that, you're not socially acceptable, right? And it's just, it is what it is. It's gonna take us a really long time to get to the point where people don't necessarily have expectations on what and who you should be. But for now, Sha, that is just how it goes. That was something that really made such an impact when it came to me. It actually kind of ties to like the next thing that I wanted to talk about. My African identity, or like my identity in relation to the community, in context with how the world is moving and what is happening in Kenya, particularly. I think the most significant shift that I've seen happen this year is a lot more people have become interested in current affairs and world affairs. And I think that's a really great thing simply because if we live in silos, it means that you don't fully understand how we are interconnected as a society. And knowing what happens outside the borders of Kenya is extremely important because now the world is actually moving, like not even moving, we are all connected. And what happens in Kenya, chances are, is going to affect Nigeria and vice versa, simply because of trade. And that's why I'm saying the positive shift that we're witnessing now is people have become a lot more interested in what happens outside their own borders. You see posts of Sudan, you see posts of Palestine, you see posts of Congo, you see posts of Tanzania when that was happening, you see posts of Uganda. And it's great that we are using social media for like the right use, actually. I don't know how effective that is in making a change, but I think I always say before anything happens, before any change happens, the mindset has to change. And the mindset only changes if you develop the art of curiosity. So the fact that people are curious is a really good thing. And I like that people are curious. And I'm actually happy that people are a lot more interested in what happens outside of their own borders. Because I think as a person that has lived in different countries, um, the more interconnected we are, and not just in word of mouth, but then, or like the acknowledgement that we are interconnected, the better it is for the next 20 to 40 years. Because I feel like what Gaddafi was trying to do during his time was like the African dream. Forget about the American dream. That is not something that applies in Africa. So if people become a lot more curious with what happens politically, economically, and socially in each other's countries, it now moves from like hi cousins to hi brother and hi sister. Like we now feel a lot more closer to each other, and we feel like what happens in another country is something that we should also stand for and something that we should work on getting more knowledge about. And I stand the people that actually provide knowledge on TikTok and different social media platforms about this particular things because this is not the time to be ignorant. I usually say that one of the things that kills us as Africans is ignorance. And it's not ignorance because there's not knowledge, but it's ignorance because you choose not to engage with the knowledge that is freely available. And I get that there's something as such as empathy burnout of like knowing a lot of things, but then you can't do anything about it. But I think the knowledge itself is good because you never know when you're actually gonna need it. You never know when your knowledge will actually be of service or be of use. So, as tedious as it may be to fight for these things, post about these things, read about them, and I say that very like cautiously because I think a lot of these things are very gruesome. They're very traumatic, and I think you should exercise a lot of caution when you're going through a lot of these things because I don't think anything that is happening in the world is normal. And even God knows, Sha, that this is not how he designed it to be, but then it would be very naive for us to assume that there was no war in the Bible. And I'm not saying that because people should die for justice to happen, but then even when it occurs, I feel like it is still our duty to uphold the truth and stand for justice and empathize. I think empathy is, I don't know, I think we're having selective empathy, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think being human is recognizing and acknowledging someone's pain and then making a decision so that, it doesn't necessarily affect another person. I feel like anytime you start to think of what is happening in the world, and I think one of the things that I watched this year that is completely seared in my mind is the BBC Africa video on the June 25th, 2024 protest that happened. And I think um one of the things that is so telling is the fact that one, the world also, like, as much as we may feel like we are shouting at an empty space, like no one is hearing, but then unfortunately things don't just happen. And I think that's one of the hardest things that I had to kind of like get, accustomed to, that just because you post something, just because we are all trying to work and advocate for a certain thing, that doesn't mean that it's not going to change. Unfortunately, change happens on like a 0.01% to 0.01% plus 0.01%. But then if you're keen, you'll be able to see it. I'm not necessarily talking about the like any government or any political organization or whatever it is. I'm just saying that change in the society takes a really long time. But then if you're keen on looking at people's behaviors and what is happening, you'll see that there is hunger for change. And the more people that are hungry for change, I think it gets the ball going. It's like a catalyst. But yeah, let's move on to the next part. I think that was a little bit somber. So I think one of the things that I've done this year, because I think, like I said, the topic is a year later. Um, so what we're gonna do, moving from the BBC and everything that is happening around the world, is I'm gonna talk about my biggest wins, guys. I have wins. I have wins. Being alive is a win, sure, but I have other wins. I am a co-author of two research reports: sexual and gender-based violence against women in sports, and media framing of sexual and gender-based violence and femicide. And a lot of people don't know how exactly I ended up in research. And to be quite honest, it wasn't like I sat down and I actually planned and I was like, yeah, let me do research. No, it wasn't. That's not how I ended up. One of the things I always talk about in one of the qualities that I have is I like to know things. I'm a curious person. So what happened was when I moved back from Mauritius to Kenya, I was basically just focusing on podcasting and stuff. But because I didn't fully know what videography was about, I was like, I got an opportunity to be a videography intern, and I took it. And then in the process of all of that, I met someone that was into research, and basically, like, I just started reading stuff that they were doing. And that's exactly how I ended up in research. And this is very important simply because I think we are at a point in life, especially when it comes to careers, that the only way to make it is for you to have an open mind consistently. And I say an open mind with caution, simply because you can have an open mind, but you're not able to recognize how everything ties back to the same thing. One of the conversations I had with my dad like 2 months ago was, he said, before you get to where you want to get to, you may have to do a lot of things that you don't like. But that doesn't mean that you take your ball off the goal. The goal is still the same, but how you get there is now dependent on the opportunities that you get, or for lack of for the word that people usually use is just luck. Um, some people might say, "Oh, you're so lucky." Other people might just be like, "Oh, that's an interesting trajectory." And one of the questions that, I have to consistently ask myself is, how does this line up to the bigger picture? How does this add up to the bigger picture? And I think the more I think about what I do and the more I think of why I even sit down and talk on a mic and why people are watching me or all of that stuff, it's simply because my goal at the end of the day is to make sure that the stories that people have or the conversations people have in closed rooms become amplified and they become accessible to everyone. And I think I literally did a pitch deck like 2 weeks ago, actually last week, where I had to literally sit down and focus and finally understand what exactly is the tribe and where exactly do I want it to go. And I think ultimately everything ties back to the same thing. And that's what I'm trying to say. My research work ties back to the tribe. Me sitting on a mic ties back to the tribe. If you ever see me in whichever platform, just know it ties back to the tribe. I think in the beginning of this podcast, I literally said everything I do is very intentional. There's nothing I do that just is just for just. I do stuff for the plot. Don't get me wrong, but that is never when it comes to my career in my work, when it comes to advocacy and all of that stuff. Everything actually, I come to think of it, I think the only part where I do stuff for the plot is, I say, my relationships. Because even that one, Sha, it's very calculated. Maybe that. But I don't think there's anything else that I do for the plot, honestly. I don't know, Sha. Everyone does things for the plot. But when it comes to my work stuff, that is a part where I actually don't play. And I think it's just that. Okay, so beyond the report, um, I obviously said I did a lot of GBV work. And if you're in a situation where this is something that is of interest to you, and I think the 16 days of activism are about to come up, so you're going to be seeing a lot more content when it comes to that. I think the whole of this month, there's been like a whole purple profile picture thing on TikTok and several platforms, and a lot more people are talking about it. As I record this, I think this week was the one where South Africa was supposed to come out in protests for the lives of the women that were lost and asking for accountability from the government and the government to declare that this is an actual, I don't know if they call it a pandemic or it's something that the government should seriously pay attention to. If you have been engaging with that kind of content, I think in Kenya every other day you literally hear of one woman that has been killed, stabbed, and all of those things. The way for you to contribute to this particular issue and to this particular subject matter is by learning. Like, learn, 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 learn. Like, I don't think I can emphasize this enough. And I say that simply because one of the things that when people are asked that what do you think should happen when it comes to like to combat or the interventions for sexual and gender-based violence, people say sensitization and education, basically awareness. But then not a lot of people do the job of educating people on, the different forms of SGBV, what happens, like how do you go about it? How, like, there's not a lot of people talking about it. I think if you follow different people like Njeri Amwigi in Kenya and her organization is Usikimye, if you listen to the different platforms that she goes to, she actually always talks about these things. But then she talks about it from a position of like an activism and what she sees on a day-to-day basis, but then not a lot of people do the education part. And I think even if people don't sit down on a podcast or people don't have like platforms for that, not a lot of platforms, I'm not saying they don't exist. I think it is also part of your responsibility to make yourself aware of these things, the same way you'd know the closest shop to you or the closest ATM to your house or how much bread or milk costs. I think it's the same way you actually need to know even a simple like definition or the difference between gender and sex. And I think it's very easy to feel like you don't have any power or there's nothing you can do. But then there's so much you can do with a curious mind. And I think I commented something on TikTok where a lady was talking about the fact that having a purple profile picture does not change like the fact that men will still abuse women or um survivors will not actually like come out and maybe talk about their experiences or actually go to the cops and stuff like that. But at the same time, what the purple movement did was it made people aware that this is actually bad. People had started to come out and talk about the experiences. Like it just became a thing where everyone is now focused on. And I think not one voice is able to conquer that. And I stand the work that Jerry is doing, especially with Usikimie, simply because it's not an easy thing to interact with these people. And I say that simply because I I did the work. And this sounds like a very somber episode, but I really hope that you guys get what I'm talking about. Um, the way you can assist and further advance these initiatives is by supporting organizations and people that are trying to champion for this thing, and two, learn. The other thing I'd say is I'm kind of working on, let's say, an education series on GBV that will be rolling out quite soon because I'm kind of planning it out and trying to figure out what exactly is bite-sized because it's a very like wide topic. So follow the tribe and make sure to learn as much as you can outside of even what I could give. People have not gotten to the point where they realize that gender cuts across everything. Gender cuts across tech, gender cuts across climate, gender cuts across literally everything that we do in this life. But then the fact that it has not been integrated or it's not something that people think about anytime is not good. And I think that's why the sensitization comes in, where people have to now understand that gender affects everything. And once you start to think of it from that perspective, it means that when you're making decisions on literally anything, whether or not to walk behind a woman at night, whether or not to say hi to a woman, whether or not to catcall a woman, you recognize that you as a man, you're in a position of power and they're by society they are less than, because we live in a patriarchal system. So it just makes it easier for you to now understand like what exactly is happening and how do we get to an equilibrium when it comes to society. But hey, I've yapped enough. I have yapped enough. The last question is looking ahead and the inspirations and da 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 and my ambitions and all of that stuff. I think that one of the things I'm aiming for, and I don't think this very lightly, is I'm hoping to grow the It Tribe. I think the exercise I did on writing the pitch deck and going through a lot of the Excel sheets and documents that I did like 3, 4 years ago before I started it, made it so clear that I have something. And I think it's very not good. It's not good when everyone can recognize that you have something and you're just sitting there and you're not doing anything about it. Even God is not liking what I'm doing. So I think it'll be wise if I take myself a lot more seriously and I take this a lot more seriously. And I think that kind of starts with also just talking about what I do and being more vocal about what I do. But then at the same time, one thing I'm actually gonna say is if you feel like you can help me in any way, and I mean any way, because there's literally a lot of work that happens in podcasting, and there's so many things that I would like to do that it's so hard to do it as a one-man job. If you feel like you can, I would say, donate your talents towards the tribe, I think you should just shoot a message to me and say, "Hey Liz, I listen to your podcast and I do ABCD, and can I join you? Can I do an episode for you?" Because like I always say, like for now I'm the host, but then after a couple of years, other people will take over and I will not be the host anymore, simply because I'm trying to create and build a platform that exists beyond me. So having other people also come and dominate and talk about these things would make more sense, because this is for young adults. When I get to 30, I don't think I want to be sitting around and talking about things that people that are 21 are going to. It would be best if people that are 21 talk about things that affect 21-year-olds. So yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things, to take myself serious. Okay, the last question that I'm gonna ask, because we had the first question, now the last question is, if the last year was an Hollywood movie, what would it be titled? Mine would be Mine would be to God be the glory. Simply because, hey, Jesus, if no be God. When Ghana was singing this, yeah, blessings. It's like, I don't know, it passed me. But I think I've experienced a lot of blessings. It's just not the blessings that I thought I wanted. I don't know if, I don't think it came in terms of what I wanted. And maybe that's why. But yeah, whichever blessing, Sha, it's a blessing, but I didn't get the blessings in terms of money the way I wanted. Maybe next year, Sha. Maybe next year. But yeah, you guys should let me know in the comment section what your your Nollywood movie title would be. But yeah, so now that we wrapped that up, let's get to the fun section. I feel like some of my episodes are usually so heavy, but they're quite necessary. I hope if you've listened to that, this made sense or you resonated with it. So the next section, guys, is called "Come On Now." This is where I basically say one unnecessary things that I see, hear, or experience that I don't think should be happening. And today, one of the things that I noticed that has been happening and I don't like is the fact that people like to touch each other. Like there's a lot of physical touch that happens in public places. And I mean it in queues, in buses, in matatus, in town, in just everywhere. People like to be skin to skin and like let's what happened to social distance? What happened to I sit on my own chair and you sit on your own chair and you also you put yourself properly in the middle? What happened to that? Guys, as much as COVID has finished and all of these social distancing things have finished, let's bring some of these things need to be brought back. We are not supposed to be, we should not be that close to each other. And I say this very strongly. If you're that person, I I don't know. Find different ways of love. Experience love at home. So you don't come to public places and you want to be so close to people. Because what do you mean we are standing in a queue and you're so close to my neck? Like you're literally breathing down my neck. That's don't anger me. But change your ways. This is not how people should be living. This is not what life is about. Have space now. Ah, like when I think of that and when I think of the fact that I've literally had to stand sometimes in public transport simply because I could not stand being that close to someone. And it's not even in a bad way that you smell. I just don't like the fact that you're close to me like that. Don't be that close. Like I said, don't anger me. Anyway, you should tell me what is one unnecessary thing, and if you're like me, just tell me, girl, I relate. Because hey, when I tell you there's so many, like actually there's once where I literally came off a matatu simply because the person was too close to me and I was like, God, I'm never going to reach. And by the time I get to town, I'll be so upset. And mind you, I live really far. So I was like, oh, I choose a good day. And I had a good day. The other section is the song of the week. And my song of the week from my Spotify listening stats, that's actually a new feature that I saw the other day. And I'm like, that's cool. My song of the week is All My Money by Cash Coming. Yeah, that's a good song. I think another song that has been trending that I like is Body. Your Body Na Meets by yeah. Yeah, so I think because of Kidizemba guys, I think all the music that are just, it's Kaladizi have started to like just trend and all of that stuff. So I think it's making sense. I love me some good songs. And that's actually a really good one. All My Money. If you got this far, like I said, guys, you should listen to this far. Thank you for tuning in to the HR podcast. If this episode made you think, brought you comfort, or helped you feel seen, follow us and leave a comment and share it with a friend. I said I'm not going to ask for many things, but these are the last things I'm going to ask. Comment. I actually realized that comments mean a lot. Like when I was doing the pitch deck, I realized that you guys don't comment on things and it's very difficult for me to show people you enjoy things if you don't comment. So I think comment, share it with a friend, leave a star rating, follow the H-Tribe on Instagram, follow the H-Tribe on podcast, follow the H-Tribe on YouTube. That's just all I ask. You see, simple things like those ones. It's not, you don't even have to give me money yet. It's just for free. So yeah, if you want to stay connected to the community, just, follow us. Follow us. Like I don't think I'm not going to get tired of saying that you should follow us. Until next time, be kind to yourself and keep choosing growth. Bye guys.